But the purpose of this is really, of our workshop, is to provide an overview of like what goes into the proposal. The big thing, I guess, to remember is like if you're planning a proposal for the summer, the deadline is March 4th, and that Renee and I are here to help you individually build those proposals. But time is, I mean, even though this is, what is this, February 1st, time is short because there may be legwork involved in getting, a good proposal going. How many people are thinking about building a proposal for the summer? Quite enough. So for others, it might be a preview of what you might do later on, which is great. The first thing that I'm going to do is, besides introducing Renee, whom I think all of you know, is to introduce our two AMS student speakers, Dani and Bridget. And they're going to talk, they just got back from South Africa and London. So they're going to talk about their experiences actually doing the project. And if you could say a little bit about how you went about getting this project and what you did, that would be great too. You want to come up here for a second? Stand right here so the camera won't, so that camera will get captured.
Okay, well I went to London and I did a project looking at adaptations of the Caribbean experience.
And I went to South Africa and looked at how this leopard conservation communicates their science to the local community and affects policy change in that area.
I would say for advice, the most important thing I think is time. Like give yourself enough time to meet with professors and talk about what you want to do and figure it out and like plan for budgeting and just getting your proposal in on time. And also when you're like figuring out the logistics of your whole project, I would try to leave yourself enough time at the end or when you come back to like get your budget report all in and your written report so that you don't have to hurry back to school right afterwards and then that will like fall inside.
Like it's doing right now.
Yeah. And maybe don't wait until like senior year if you
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge for me was coming up with the project. I'm like a physics and theater double major, and so I wasn't really, and I don't really know what I want to do with my life after, so I wasn't really in a career kind of path, like, oh, I'm going to do this project, and it's going to help me in this career. So I went through a lot of different possible projects at the beginning. Like I was thinking like, oh, I'm really interested in food and food politics. Why not go to Argentina and look at GMOs there? But I was taking a food class at the time and hadn't really gotten to that. And then I was like, well, Turkey's really cool. I may have some cool food there. Maybe I'll go to Turkey. But again, I wasn't really familiar with Turkey or anything. But finally, I was kind of sat back and was like, well, how are my two majors connected? And like, what have I always wanted to do? And for me, like, science and theater, the like only way that I could really see them combining was like, well, communicating is theater and physics is science. So like, how is like science communicated really? And The Lion King is like one of my favorite movies ever. And like when I was a kid, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool to like work with big cats? And that was never really like I never really thought I would do it. But then it kind of came back to me one day when I was like trying to think of a project, and I was like, well, why not go to South Africa and try to work with big cats? And so that's how my project kind of like fell into place. So if I were to give you any advice, just think about the things that you like and like maybe dreams that you have that you don't actually think you could ever see yourself doing, because maybe this project will help you do it.
Yeah, I think it's a good chance to do something that maybe you can't do in a class, or maybe that you started doing in a class but you want to explore more about. And I had like struggles coming up with what I want to do too, and I would say talk with a professor that you like know and that you found something interesting in their class, maybe just to see if they can maybe help you develop an idea around something that you're interested in.
Yeah, don't be afraid to like put yourself out there. Like I talked with so many professors that I didn't even end up working with, and I was just like sending an email like, hey, I'm doing an AMS project, and can you tell me a little bit about Turkey, because you're from Turkey? And they were more than happy to talk with me about things.
And I would say too, I guess, talk to professors they overestimate.
Yeah, definitely.
It's better to have too much than to realize when you're there that you don't know.
You can always turn the rest of the band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit of like what was it like on the ground in London and in the park?
I mean, I stayed in a dorm in London, and I went to the British Library there and read some adaptations that they had that were like manuscript copies of plays that people had written based on Grimm's fairy tales. So that was really cool. And I also incorporated going to see like plays while I was there, since there's so much theater going on in London. So I saw plays that were adaptations. It's great.
I was on a private reserve right outside this small community called Leidenburg. And so on the reserve they have a tourist kind of function as well as a research function, and I was staying at a camp devoted to the research function. So there's the primary research there was looking at leopard dynamics, so tracking them like with lipids and things, as well as using telemetry, which is like radio collars to see kind of their movements across this large area. So I stayed in a tent for 2 weeks, and the only way we had hot showers was if we started a fire, so I learned how to start a fire. And yeah, it was, I mean, I was scared for my life definitely for the first 4 days, but it definitely made me grow. And that's another thing with the AMS project, like, if you can choose something that like scares you a little bit, I would say go for that. This terrified me a little, but it was definitely awesome. And also, another thing to keep in mind is you're going to be all alone wherever you are. There isn't going to be somebody like emailing you like, hey, did you do this part of your project today? Like, remember you're part of your project, so it's all kind of on you to like think to yourself like, oh, okay, I should like start this conversation with somebody, or like, stay behind on this walk and like work on my whatever you're doing, or whatever you need to do to get your project done. Because that's your primary reason why you're there.
Any other tips?
Definitely take advantage of it. I have so many friends. Yeah, I have so many friends in AMS and freshman year who are like, yeah, we're gonna do it, and then like half of them were like, nah, I couldn't come up with anything. And it's like, I mean, I feel like I pulled my idea out of the air, like, and it is gonna help me. I kind of am now looking into a possible career in like communication and science, which I didn't really expect it to lead me to that, but
Yeah, I think even if it's something you don't think like will be relevant to you, like even finding out something that you later decide wasn't for you, that's still helpful.
yeah.
Might as well try.
Well, thanks very much, guys.